Good afternoon. Well, I should say good evening. Good evening, folks. Good evening. I trust that everyone has had a phenomenal, fantastic, positive day today. I certainly have had one. We have an interesting topic tonight to talk about. Absolutely. Thank you for all of you that have signed on. Let me see who we got here with us. Shout out to Aaron Thompson. Shout out to you. Shout out to Margaret. Shout out to Gail. And shout out to Abdul. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to jump on this stream. Time is a very precious commodity, so I do indeed thank you, and I'm grateful that you took the time out of your day to jump on this stream. As we do with all streams, put a 1 up in the chat room if you can hear me loud and clear. Just put a 1 up in the chat box if you can hear me loud and clear. Just another 1 up in the chat room. Good evening to you, Gail. Peace, my brother Aaron. I see you. Awesome. All right. I'm glad we're loud and clear. Now that we're live, let's get to it. Let's get to it. A lot of interesting things going on in the media today, guys. I'm sure if you've paid attention to the news and the media, a lot of stuff is going on, man. They arguing and fighting and protesting about Roe versus Wade overturning. I tell you, man, these are first world problems. Because in many countries they don't even have the choices that we are privileged to have here in the United States, be it good or bad. You could take your choice of deciding what's bad or what's good, but I will tell you, we live in a country where you do have that right to choose. I myself personally, I support a woman's right to choose. I didn't say what I believe they have a right to choose with. I won't touch on that, but I will say this: the fact that we have the privilege to choose. You're talking about first world issues. We're not a third world country where we're under a dictatorship. We're certainly not in a third world country where we have no right to speak. We have a right, freedom of speech. We live in a country where we can pretty much do what we want to do within reason. And with that being said, it's funny how we have so many disagreements, how we have so many things that we want to protest about. There are people that, like I said in earlier streams, that are dying to get here to this country for what they perceive from their end and what they're subjected to without choice. They're trying to get here, all right? And, with that being said, we have to be thankful in a lot of different ways, because at least even if we disagree with the choices that are available to all of us, we have to be grateful and thankful that whatever choice we do decide, be it good, bad, ugly, or indifferent, we have the right to make that choice. And I believe the choices we need to begin making now, especially in particular where the black community is concerned, we need to be making the choices that are relevant to family structure. Family structure is important because in truth, we're losing our family structure. Almost in every community that you go to where black people live, whether you go from New Jersey to California, if you go east to west, north to south, you'll find the same conditions. You'll find the same situations. And what is that condition? You'll find our women in armies by themselves. You'll find them by themselves, and you'll find them single with no man, but you'll find children. We have to change those dynamics. And for ladies that hear these talking points, getting upset about the talking points won't help at all. Understanding the talking points is what's more relevant. These are serious issues and circumstances that affect us all over the country and all over this country, in every city and state, in every town, every small town. And it doesn't matter. We are affected. And as a result, if we continue like this without having these conversations, who's going to change it? If nobody's willing to have the conversations, and who's going to have the conversations? Who do we expect to have the conversations? Tonight's topic, and you saw it in the stream of what tonight's topic is about. A man's basic needs have not changed, ladies. It hasn't changed much, but ladies, yours has with your list. The question is, where did you get this list from? This list is derived out of a thought process that says, and that started in the 1800s. We're talking about 1860 something, where it began telling women that your independence is what you needed. Independence from what? It started with the women's liberation movement. That's what started the process of what we know today as the feminist movement. The women's liberation movement was started by white women who wanted the liberation movement, okay? But I will ask a question to every black woman that may be on this stream, or who may watch it in a replay. I want to say to you and ask you a question, and then you ask yourself the question and answer it to yourself. At what point have black women been under the rulership or complete leadership of black men that they now feel they need to be liberated? When did that happen? I would love to know, because I haven't seen it. But if you have a date, please let me know. You can type that in the chat box. If you know something I don't know, type it in the chat box. I don't think it existed. I just believe that black women jumped on the bandwagon of something that they didn't even understand. And as a result, it's led to what? Here's what it led to. The women's liberation movement led to this. We now have the welfare system. Mind you, some people need it. They can use it because they're just in financial straits, that the welfare system has served as an anchor to get them from one place to the next. So I respect the welfare system? Absolutely, for those that absolutely need it, not for those that take advantage of the system. Then we had what was called the Section 8 system, the low-income housing system. What did that low-income housing system do? It gave women the ability to afford housing according to their income, right? Okay, is that a good thing? Yeah, absolutely, because if you can't afford it, you can't afford it. But here's where the problem came in at, ladies. It required you to get rid of your man. It required you to get rid of your man. You couldn't get on the welfare system unless you could prove that there was no man present. You couldn't get into low-income housing unless you could prove that there was no man present. How does that affect the black family? And how does that affect the family structure? I need you to look at this and think about it. Not how you benefited, but look at how it destroyed the family structure in the black community. So today what happens? You have education now. You have the ability to pursue some of the dreams that you may have. All right? The problem is that Big Mama, Grandmama, and even some of us who had our parents, our mothers, if you are daughters who had your mothers, they didn't teach you exactly what it is that you needed outside of your education, what you needed outside of your income bracket, that at some point making it a necessity that you needed a man. So what happens after you get your education and after you get your good degree? Then what comes up is this dreaded list. Now, should we all have standards? Yes, we should. But ladies, your standards is on a list. And when you have standards, it's accepted as where you will not settle. And I understand that, I get it. But if a man has standards, he's labeled as a misogynist. So a misogynist is defined as men who hate women. Why is a man labeled as a misogynist if he calls out the things that he wants in a wife, if he wants that he wants in a woman? Why is he labeled then negatively as a misogynist? Look at this. And I got to ask you a question, ladies. With your list, which is defined as standards, has your list and your standards standardized you out of the game? Has it left you so standardized that now you have no options. You removed your options. Removing your options mean, can you literally find the man that's on your list? Since we all come with our own collective baggage, we all come with our own collective issues. Is your list outside of the fact that each individual you meet comes with their own list of baggage, their own collective of baggage, right? If that's true, and it is, since we're all not perfect, then how is your list going to get you the outcomes that you say you want? How? How can that happen? Is there a double standard between a standard being a list and a man deciding he wants something specific out of a woman? Should his be dismissed and should yours be acknowledged? And does he get demonized for having a standard? And do you get glorified for having one? The next real question is, the list that you have, do you even qualify for the list of the things that you make men accountable for on your list? I know you want a man that's 6 feet tall. I know you do. Most women, when they write a list, they want a man that's 6 feet tall. They want a man with a six-pack. You know, he got to have a six-pack stomach, and he got to have all these things going on with him. He has to have an income that reaches a certain income bracket. And sadly enough, most women who want a man in those areas of 6 feet, you're talking about a very small percentage. The average man is no more than between 5'8" and 5'10". That's the average height of a black man. That's the average height of men, period, in the population. It's only a very small percentage of men that are 6 feet and above. Okay? It's a very small percentage. So when you're talking about small percentages, now you have to ask yourself the question, what are the odds of me landing within those percentages? And then the next question is, do I qualify for the list of what I'm asking for? And what are the deal breakers in that list? These are questions we really have to ask ourselves. These are hard questions, but these are questions that you have to ask yourself in the privacy of yourself. You know, I will tell you this, these talking points are not meant to hurt. They really are not. They're meant to give insight and to give realistic expectations outside of the expectations that have been narrated through the society that made you believe, that made many women believe, that no matter how they come, and no matter how they bring themselves, and no matter what attitude they have, no matter what kind of behavior that they have, that men are simply to accept that behavior and accept that attitude and accept that appearance that comes and don't say anything, don't have a standard. And I'm sure you could agree with me that that's not fair. So getting the outcomes that you want, for both of us, getting the outcomes that we want, there needs to be an understanding that we both have to bring something to the table. And it's called gender roles. What is the gender role? The gender role of a man is what? To provide. The gender role of a man is to protect. The gender role of a man is to be there and help to rear the children. That is him. Not to rear them in terms of nurturing them, because that is not the nature of a man, to nurture children. His job is to protect and provide. A woman's job by nature is to nurture and to be there for those children, and then teach them, those children, what they need, the essential tools that they need, especially if it's daughters, the essential need of what those daughters need in terms of how to become a wife to someone. At some point in their life, they're going to need to have these tools. Unfortunately, in our community, this is not what happens. As you've heard me say in previous streams, Generation X failed you, ladies. They didn't teach you what you needed to know as it relates to relationships. They certainly didn't teach you what you needed to know as it relates to dealing with a man. 85% of every household is headed by a woman and with no man present. So I understand that you don't know what to do when you finally come in contact with a man And especially when you come into a situation where now you're in a relationship, much less married, you don't know how to deal with it. Because the only authority you've ever had or seen, your first experience, was either on your job or in college with your professor. Right? These are the only two main areas where a woman that didn't grow up with a man in the house, that she came encounter with the experience of authority where a man was concerned. So I understand. And I will tell you this, ladies, we as men, we haven't been taught either. Because most of us, like I said, if you came up at 85% without a man in authority, we came up probably 85% as well without a man in authority. And as a result, what it does for men that come up like that, they come up with a lot of feminine behavior, a lot of emotionalism. They emotionalize everything. They don't act in the manner that a man would act if a man was actually present, which is very important. They begin to adopt and take on the effects, the attitudes of the women in their life that raised them. Okay? So we both have something that we're dealing with, okay? But men have always been able to take their response, take what was being told about them on the chin, and we've taken it for over 50 years. Women have had the privilege of having movies made. We've had The Color Purple. We've had Waiting to Exhale. We've had Stella Got Her Groove Back, and I can go down the list of movies that all depicted men in a weak standpoint. And we can keep on going, but yet men have remained silent. Now we have a talking point that's calling out some of the issues that women have as it relates to them in relationships and them not getting the outcomes that they want. We have to get to a place where we can have these conversations and not listen to respond, but simply listen to understand. And ladies, has your list standardized you in such a way that is standardizing you right out of the picture? Men, for the most part, have not changed in terms of their basic needs by much. Men are the same as they've always been throughout history. We want a submissive, we want a fit, feminine, beautiful, cooperative woman. And like I said before, I know some of you don't like the word submissive. I mean, this society has put such a negative word on it. But if I can lighten it up and make it more palatable for you, submissive just simply means agree. Agreeable. Are you agreeable? Now let's look at your list. Most ladies who have a list, they've never met the man that equals up to the list that they wrote. That's the truth. That's the truth. And then what are you bringing to the table? Because we are expected as men to bring something to the table. We can't just show up. We don't get that luxury. Women have always gotten the luxury of being able to show up to the table. Beautiful. That's it. You know, nice dress, nice clothes, nice shoes, smell good, hair done, you know. Usually you end up seeing that around the first part of the date. Shortly thereafter, you don't really see it much more after that. But I'll tell you, these are important aspects that needs to be considered. Don't get mad. Like I've always said in previous streams, don't get mad, just simply get better. Listen to the talking points, because men aren't talking. The ship has already sailed the port. These talking points are not going to stop. They're going to continue. And hopefully, if we're smart and we listen and we pay attention and not simply listen to respond and get all in our emotions and in our feelings about the talking points and who does he think he is to tell us anything, how perfect is his life? Well, I'll tell you, I'm like you, it's not perfect, but at least I have a talking point. And I will tell you this much too, if we can't get to a place where we can respect the wisdom or the understanding or the knowledge coming from a black man, then we're really having problems. Because if we have one of our own, for you ladies who are in relationships, if you're looking for him to be lead or leader in your life, in your relationships, do you respect what he says? Do you respect the information and the knowledge that he may have? He doesn't have to be perfect, but do you respect him at all when he opens his mouth to say anything? And that's the thing. And for those of you that have a man, I will tell you this much. You don't even realize how much you've won. You're so close to winning that you have no idea. Providing he chooses to keep you. That's the biggest part of it. And for those of you who are single and you simply have a list, now you have to ask yourself the question, do I qualify for the things that I have on my list? Let's look at it this way. Every time you choose to go to a college, right? The college has requirements. And they have a list of requirements that you need. You fine-tune the list that they require for you to attend that college, and you try to come up to the list. If it's an Ivy League college, you know that your GPA has to be a certain way, has to be a certain level, right? You know that your GPA has to be at a certain level. What do? You apply yourself to the curriculum in high school. No games, no playing around. You apply yourself to the curriculum. You start doing some community service also before you graduate. You start getting involved in different programs while you're in college. You don't simply skate your way through because you know you need to qualify. You need to make sure that your resume says that you are absolutely qualified according to that list. And then you begin checking off those boxes. And if you can check off those boxes successfully, the college will accept you in as a student, right? How about the job? Let's look at a job. The job has a list. Whatever profession you're in, the job has a list of requirements according to whatever job profession you're going into. They have a list, and in that list, you have to meet the requirements, the qualifications of that list, right? And they look through a whole bunch of applications of people who are applying for the same job, and they omit and they put to the side those that are close to the qualifications as opposed to those who don't qualify at all. And then they make their final decision, because even jobs have standards. Even jobs have things that they want. Colleges have standards, and colleges have things that they want. The hardest thing to get across when talking to ladies, to talking to women, especially in particular our women, is to getting them to understand that standards as it relates to the men that they say they want is not only important, but necessary. Because what is the alternative, ladies? What is the alternative? If you don't meet the requirements of what the college is asking for, what's the alternative? They won't allow you entry. If you don't meet the standards of the job that you're applying for, regardless of what that job is, what is the alternative, ladies? They won't hire you. If you go to buy a car and they run your background and your credit, if you don't meet the requirements, what is the alternative, ladies? You don't get the car of your choice. Everything in life speaks to you having to qualify for the things you ask for. With that thing that you're asking for, there's a list. So you have a list also. Your list is for the men you say you want. Now you have to ask yourself a real critical question. How much of the things that you have on your list do you qualify for? How much of it do you qualify for? Because men, like I said, we're simple. We haven't changed much over the years. Men's basic needs have not changed much over the years, throughout history. But yours has, based on your list. Based on your list. So how much of the things you have on your list as it relates to what a man needs and what you're willing to accept and what you consider to be the deal breakers? How much of that list do you actually qualify for? And if you find the man that actually meets everything you have on your list, can you measure up equal to the man who's identified perfectly with your list? Can you equal up to that? Those are the real questions that have to be asked. They can't be asked by us. They have to be asked by you. And they have to be asked by you in private, where you're talking to yourself. Okay? Not with your single girlfriend, not with your single auntie, not with your single mom. You have to ask these questions to yourself. You know, I'm a firm believer in save yourself. Save yourself. Because at the end of life, we want to be with someone to finish out that end of life with. You know, it gets real serious at a certain age, to where you come face to face with your own mortality. And when you come face to face with your own mortality, it makes what you did when you were young look like it's really not that important. Then you have to ask yourself the question, how much time have I wasted up to this point? Just partying, clubbing, you know, riding the carousel. You know, at some point it has to become more serious. But it has to be a level of respect that's elevated with black men in particular, because I'm talking about my own people, but in general, but my own people. Black women have to get to a place where they respect their black man, not just see him as a utility, and simply not see him as some commodity or some come up, so to speak. But he has to begin to be seen as a valuable individual in their life, that not only do they want, but that they need. And that's a serious thing that needs to be not only looked at, but taken very seriously. Our community is suffering. There's too many women walking around right now with children, no male figure, and by themselves. And they're looking at the media, and they're looking at the news, and they're looking at movies, and they believe, based on these series, these movies that have come out, the narrative that's being painted for them is a deception. You're listening to individuals giving advice to young ladies right now who are already in the top money earners position of life. They're actors. They're wives of celebrities. They're wives of athletes. Or they're wives of entertainers. They live an entirely different lifestyle than the average woman. So their instruction doesn't apply to you, ladies. Their instructions don't apply to you. Their instructions apply to them. Their options are much bigger than yours. So the truth of it is what? If 85%, and I'll keep saying this at every stream, because until it sinks in, 85% of black men in this country make between $41,000 a year to $42,500 a year. That's the average. And for brothers that are on the line that make more than that, just understand, you're only probably a notch above the average. Very few of us make between $100,000 to $150,000 to $200,000 a year. But there are some, but those numbers are very small. So if you're talking about 10%, 15%, 5% of the top money earners in the country, 1%, minus 1% of the top money earners in the country that are black men. Look how drastic you're limiting your advantage by ignoring the 85%. I want to make it sexy all over again for the guy who works at the plant on the third shift. I do. Oh yeah, I want to make it sexy for that. I want to make it sexy for a woman to be okay with an average brother who just trying to do the right thing and don't want to sell drugs and don't want to rob and don't want to kill nobody and don't want to steal from anybody, so they can minimize their list and get to the level that they're actually on. And that way you won't annihilate all your options and your resources, so that you don't have to leave this planet by yourself. Now, I'll tell you something. Like I said before many times, I support the right of choice. If your choice is that you don't want these men, okay? Somebody does. You don't want them, okay? Somebody does. Somebody does. I'll tell you this, the average income of a black woman in this country is $27,800 a year. I know some of you on the line that don't make that little of money. You're saying, I make more than that. I make way more than that. Okay, all right, maybe you do. Maybe you do. That means you're above average. But the average black woman can't tell your story. Average black woman makes $27,800 a year. All right, and you heard me say the average black man makes between $41,000 to $42,500 a year. This is the average. Okay, so when you're looking at the average, and the numbers don't lie, you want to find out where to get this information from so that you don't say, well, you know what, Charles is saying this all out of his own opinion. He's just running his mouth. I'm so sick of these guys running their mouth with their own opinion. Well, I'm going to give you some stats where you can reach the resource of what I'm talking about. We're talking about